Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Thanks. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada. Jaya Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. Gurudev, Gurudev, Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Gurudev, Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parikacharya Sutada's Divine Grace Abhay Charanavinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radhagunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavadam Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Shri Gangamaya Ki Jai, Shri Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Shri Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the 10th canto, chapter 48, and we're on text number 8. This is continuing about Krishna pleases his devotees. Saivam kavalya natam tam prapyatus prapyam ishvaram angaragarpane naho durbagedam ayachata. Saivam kavalyam natam tam prapya dusprapyam ishvaram angaragarpane naho durbagedam ayachata. Saivam kavalya natatam prapya dusprapyam ishvaram angaragarpane naho durbagedam ayachata. Saivam kavalya natatam prapya dusprapyam ishvaram angaragarpane naho durbagedam ayachata. Saivam kavalya natatam prapya dusprapyam ishvaram angaragarpane naho durbagedam ayachata. Sa, she, eva, thus, kavalya, of liberation, natam, the controller, tam, him, prapya, obtaining, dusprapyam, unattainable, ishvaram, the Supreme Lord, angaraga, body ointment, arpanena, by offering, aho, oh, durbaga, unfortunate, idam, this, ayachata, she begged. Translation: having thus gotten the hard-to-get Supreme Lord by the simple act of offering him body ointment, unfortunate Trivakra submitted to that Lord of freedom the following request. Please repeat, having thus gotten the hard-to-get Supreme Lord, by the simple act of offering him body ointment. Unfortunate Trivakra submitted to that Lord of freedom the following request. Purport by the servants of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, Srimati Trivakra prayed to the Lord, please enjoy only with me and not with any other woman. Because Krishna was not prepared to grant such a benediction, Trivakra is described here as unfortunate. Sridhar Swami adds that although to ordinary eyes she seemed to beg for material sex pleasure, in fact, she was a liberated soul at this point. Om Jnanatinamandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunminitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnuvadaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Vir Krishnadas Gosaminiti Namine Namoham Sinikashaya Prabhupada Priyate Sudreda Sudi Nistyam Vyamta Shavaki Nivadine Namo Vishnuvadaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Sunyavadi Paschata Deshatadine. I'm going to, so now the purport of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. She requested that he enjoy only with her, Kavalya Natam, not with anyone else at all. She is called unfortunate because Krishna would not fulfill that request. And then Jiva Goswami's purport, which is, there's so many facets. Took all day yesterday to kind of look at everything that he was seeing. Puts it a little bit, it seems like it's a little bit different. Jiva Goswami. She had attained the Lord, who was supremely independent and most difficult to attain just by offering ointment to him. Kaivalya means one-pointed devotion or pure bhakti, as in the following. Kavalya Samata Patas Tvatam Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is the path approved as Kavalya. And that's from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 3, Text 12. That is the explanation of Sridhar Swami. It is also said, Apavargas Chapi Bhavati. One achieves liberation in the form of bhakti. That's from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 19, Text 18. Thus, Kavalya Natam means the person capable of bestowing bhakti. She had attained in a remarkable manner, prapya, the person who could bestow bhakti. She is called Durbhaga because she had been a hunchback and a servant, rather than a gopi endowed with the qualities of Lakshmi by nature. It is amazing, that she made a request for a most rare position to be mentioned in the next verse. Her misfortune, however, was in the past, as in the case of the Brahmana. Kim anena kritam punyam avadutena bhikshuna shriya hinena lokesmin garhitena damenana cha. What pious acts has this unkept, impoverished Brahmana performed? People regard him as a lowly and contemptible, yet the spiritual master of the three worlds, the abode of goddess Sri, is serving him reverently. That's from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 80, Text 25. And actually, so we know that Kubja, a.k.a. Trivakra, had done just a little bit of a pious act. And a couple of verses back we heard that she had some pious credits, but not the heaps of pious credits that would be associated with the goddesses of fortune or the gopis. So she had done some little bit of pious credit and always kept Krishna in her mind, because even back then, she had invited him to enjoy with her. She was captivated, and that was, Krishna was constantly in her thoughts. And when he came back to sort of take her up on that offer or reciprocate with her as she would like, that was that was when she became fortunate, basically, is what Jiva Goswami was saying. And he referred to a very interesting verse, which I went back and I read through in the Bhagavatam. Kim anena kritam punyam avadutena bhikshuna shriya hinena lokeshmin garhitena dhammena cha yoso triloka guruna srinaveshena sambrita paryankastam shriyam hitva parishvakto grajoyata. The residents of the palace said, "What pious acts has this unkept, impoverished Brahmana performed? People regard him as lowly and contemptible. Yet the spiritual master of the three worlds, the abode of goddess Sri, is serving him reverently. Leaving the goddess of fortune sitting on her bed, the Lord has embraced this Brahmana as if he were an older brother." So who are we talking about here? Yes, so we're talking about Sudama Brahmana, and if we think about the story of Sudama Brahmana, it's quite interesting because he and Krishna were in the Gurukul together, and Sudama Brahmana was actually impoverished and in this sort of state because it is said that when he and Krishna went out to gather wood for their spiritual master. They were in the Gurukul at the time. I can't remember what it is, but he did something sort of offensive. He did something actually that was inhibiting his own sort of progression and devotional service. And Krishna was a party to that at the time because they were out together, and I believe it was raining, and somehow he took the favor of some help without offering that help to Krishna, actually. Yeah, that's what it was. He had food with him. Yeah, he had food with him, but he didn't offer any to... Yeah, he just kept it all. So he was, sort of creeping in that way in that particular instance. Then he went through his whole life. He became impoverished. He was married, but they were pretty much destitute, even though he was a Brahmana. And I believe she was a Brahmana, so they were quite destitute. And finally, he was suffering so much, and he seemed to be resigned to that suffering until his wife sort of suggested that, oh, why don't you go see your friend Krishna? Your friend Krishna will, he'll provide some help. And he was shy. He was shy to do that. He had nothing to give him. And the wife had given him some sort of flattened rice, something very low, not very nice foodstuffs, but that's all they had, so it was the best they could provide. He went and saw Krishna, and Krishna received him so opulently. He was so overjoyed to see Sudama, his old childhood friend, again. He was overjoyed, and he was going out of his way to embrace and wash his feet, and he had Lakshmi there fanning him, and all the service was being given to Sudama Brahmana. And so Jiva Goswami, it's interesting that he's drawing this parallel because similarly Kubja, she was also very unfortunate person. She had been born with this deformity, and we know that was a result of a past life of, wanting Krishna, but not really knowing the right way to go about obtaining Krishna. She sort of went the way of seemingly demonic means because of that conditioning in that birth, but then she redeemed herself. She suddenly redeemed herself in this birth, and she offered Krishna all she had at the time, which was the ointment that was made for another. And, that's such a again, another token, ointment is not really anything so special, So she offered that anyway. And he gratefully accepted, and he promised to reciprocate with her, and then he made good on that promise. So the common theme, I feel like, with Krishna in all of these pastimes, and we've seen them woven throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam in different ways, but the word that kept coming to my mind that I was thinking about is that Krishna is Bhakta Vatsala. He's the lover of his devotees, no matter what. He's always the lover of his devotees. Those are the people that are constantly thinking of him, even though they might have absolutely nothing of any value to offer to him. But just because the devotee is thinking about him and even offering him some trash rice or some simple ointment or whatever sort of things, Bhaktavatsala is always going to reciprocate with his devotees because, that's his position as the lover of the devotees. And he doesn't really need or want anything from the devotees because he's Aptakama and he's Swarat. He's completely autonomous, He's the supreme autocrat. So he doesn't need or want anything from any of us or any of those devotees. But fortunately, that little bit of piety, that little bit of pious credit, and that little bit of service created a condition where, and I was reading about also, Jiva Goswami speaks about kaivalya, and that's a word that I don't see very much personally. I kind of was looking it up and cross-referencing it because it's used a lot in, not so much in, I found some references in the Bhagavatam, and also, of course, Srila Prabhupada, mentions it in some classes, but I didn't find it so much in kind of like basic philosophical points that we might read. And what I found is there's several meanings in different schools of thought, like particularly in other non-bhakti traditions, they refer to kaivalya as liberation. And Jiva Goswami, but they're talking here, and then I also read it as meaning transcendental, just transcendental. And then they're speaking about this bhakti yoga process as being transcendental and also the giver of liberation, right? Because eventually that point will come, or that time will come when Krishna can liberate us from our material conditioning, which can happen even while we're on this material planet, as we know, while we're in this life and while we're executing devotional service. It's really something that can happen at practically any time. But the phrase kaivalya natam, he was speaking particularly about the person capable of bestowing bhakti. And Trivakra and Sudama and Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad, so many of the devotees of Krishna that we read about throughout the Bhagavatam come in contact with Krishna himself to bestow bhakti on them. We don't particularly on this material platform have that benediction where we can come into a contact with Krishna and offer him anything except, our unswerving devotion. But fortunately, I was thinking of in our sphere, Kaivalya Natam is actually Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada went out of his way. He went out of his comfort zone. He went out of his, he was already liberated. He was Nityasiddha. He didn't have to come here to give us this knowledge or to give us that opportunity to render service to him and also AKA to the Supreme Lord, because the spiritual master is the localized aspect of Krishna. So he didn't really, he wasn't duty-bound to do it, although he was, because that's the compassion and the magnanimity of the pure devotee. So he was actually duty-bound to do that for all of us. And so, Kaivalya the bestower of bhakti, that's actually quite a responsibility. That's means really getting into an extremely personal, up close and personal relationship with each and every jiva, each and every one of us, which is what Lord Sri Krishna was doing throughout the Bhagavatam. But here particularly we see that, Krishna's going to, this is really like so magnanimous. It's just unbelievable. Krishna goes with his friend to the house of a woman that he met once and gave him ointment, and, goes right into her place and sits on her bedstead, very sort of compliantly. That was her innermost desire. That's all she wanted. She had this extremely one-pointed mindset, very, very, very lusty, very, very lusty. She just wanted Krishna no matter what, and in whatever way she wanted him. And that's like, that's quite selfish seeming, right? That's quite, it seems like it's, Sudama went to him because the wife urged him. And, he was kind of a little bit hesitant to do it. But, after thinking some more about it, he thought, okay, yeah, let me go see my friend. And, had good times in the Gurukul, and let me go see my friend. It's a good idea, and it probably got him out of the house for a while, and he could go, to a different locale and see the sights, because walking to the palace, that was very different than his very meager, probably, it said he was impoverished. I'm sure he was, had very, very meager possessions and very meager surroundings. And going to that was, a good change of pace. He could see how the other half lived, sort of, and also visit his friend. So it was kind of, for him, he was following an instruction and following his heart. Kubja or Trivakra was actually, she was following her heart, but, in a lot of ways her heart really wasn't quite in the right place. She didn't really, she was completely enamored and in love with Krishna, but, we know even from her time as Surpanaka that she was, full of this anartha, full of lust, and just meditating on enjoying with Krishna in so many ways. And, probably fortunately for her, since she was somebody that never really had that opportunity with anybody else in the past to, have conjugal relationship, that, she had all these fantasies and ideas and everything that young girls have. And, that was absorbing to her, though. So she ended up, that even though it was an imperfect way to think about Krishna, and this was talked about yesterday a little bit, or actually in great detail, that yesterday's class was about, she had a desire, but Krishna purified that desire so she wouldn't have that desire. He actually sort of cycled it over for her. She had this one-pointed determination to get that which couldn't be gotten, obtain that which couldn't be obtained. And how kind is Krishna to actually have, he's so kind to have, submitted himself to that. It's practically, it's unbelievable, that he obviously arranged a situation where it didn't look like it was, he went there with Uddhava and they went together. So it was, okay, and Uddhava could understand what he was, how he was being magnanimous and, going to reciprocate with that devotee. He could understand that, and he agreed to accompany him, etc. So he just was patiently waiting for things to go on the way they were supposed to go on, and they went on perfectly because, Bhaktivatsala, Krishna, gave that benediction that he would purify Trivakra's gross desires, obviously this is it's not on a mundane level. And just like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur had said, seemingly she seemed to beg for material sex pleasure, but she was already liberated because in the last verse she had, smelled Krishna's feet and held Krishna to her breast. So she, all of that was finished. But, I'm sure at that point, just thinking about those acts with Krishna and how, having that bit of closeness, even if it was for a very, very short time, would leave anybody wanting more. Once you get that taste or that whiff or that bit of, Krishna's magic, his sort of, his love and his care and his reciprocity, which, fortunately we can actually experience that with Sri Sri Radhagolokananda. That's why the Arch of Vigraha form is here for us. Prabhupada gave us that opportunity to have those kinds of loving exchanges with the form of the Lord. And as we serve him on a regular and daily basis, even in our minds, we can serve Radhagolokananda in our minds if we're not able to physically or, sort of show that service. But even in our minds, if we're serving Radhagolokananda, he's the lover of his devotees. He's so reciprocal. He's so reciprocal. He knows exactly what we need. He knows what we're thinking and he knows what we're feeling. He's that little bird in the tree of our hearts. He's constantly he's constantly there watching and going through everything with us. So Paramatma is always there. He's our best friend. I've heard Bhaktivatsala described also as our very best friend. He's our very best friend, so he knows what we need at all times. And he's so kind to give those things to us, Sometimes they're not coming in the way that we might expect. He might give us some wonderful benediction, that we're seeking. Maybe I've experienced years before, like something will happen or something will shift or a person will suddenly, some shift will occur. And I kind of remember, oh wow, I remember praying about that several years ago, So he's able to read us so well because he's there in our hearts. And I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say sometimes we're not completely aware of that, based on the threefold miseries that we're constantly being subjected to. And somewhere in one of the verses I was reading that Jiva Goswami had talked about here, he's so reciprocal that he practically knows what we're thinking and what we're going to do before we do it. I don't know if anyone has experienced that, but sometimes thinking something and then acting in a certain way, and then immediately upon acting, you think, ooh, I should have listened to my gut, or I should have listened to what, I was thinking about and proceeded that way instead of going that way. And then, by that, Krishna can give the intelligence of how best to proceed from those set of circumstances. So he's always there if we let him, in, if we actually let him dictate from within. Chaita Guru, he can dictate from within how we should execute our sadhana bhakti. And, that's a difficult task because that means giving up a lot of our own material desires or, sort of not really, not giving into what we feel like might be the right thing to do based on our own conditioning. So to try to negate that feeling of, okay, in my infinite wisdom, because it's kind of like the controller mentality. In my infinite wisdom, I'm going to do this, and this will be good, And sometimes it is, but there's always Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And Shastra really, Guru also, and Sadhu. Krishna speaks through his devotees, the spiritual master, the Guru there is to help guide. And then we can see right here in Shastra, there's so many instances and so many opportunities actually to tune into what Krishna wants. To tune in what he's expecting us to do in certain instances. And I'm sure everybody's had the feeling or the experience that when you do the right thing, when you make the right decision about something, and I don't know, there's sort of like a little feeling of, wow, I made the right decision. Wow, by Krishna's grace, because I really prayed and I, really was trying to tune in to what Chaita Guru wants me to do. So in the case of, all these devotees, Sudama Brahmana and Trivakra, most notably, yes, they were unfortunate, and I like how Jiva Goswami puts her misfortune. However, it was in the past. It was in the past, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says she is called unfortunate because Krishna would not fulfill that request. But, Jiva Goswami says the misfortune's in the past. He's already fulfilled the request, actually. He came to her place. He allowed her to, embrace him and do all the things, whatever those were. He allowed her to do those things. He doesn't need those. He doesn't need any of that. But he's so, he's Kaivalya Nishta, or Natam. He's bestowing bhakti in any kind of way. And for us, I feel like that's really something that everybody should always think about, especially when trying to help others along in bhakti. We can't be so rigid and so unyielding. And maybe for ourselves we're that way, but we can't, especially for those in the beginning, it's to try to impose that level of surrender or, tuning in to Krishna. We can impose it a little bit, so people can get the gist of what should be done, but to try to do hard impositions on people in bhakti yoga is kind of not really bhakti yoga. It's actually the opposite. Everybody has to come to Krishna on their own volition, voluntarily, and render that service. It has to be spontaneous, loving, devotional service. That's what Krishna wants to see, and that's what happened with Sudama Brahmana. That's what happened with Trivakra, with her ointments and unguents, and so many other examples that we can really take home and think, wow, personally, I identify very, very closely with Trivakra, because before Bhakti Yoga, before this process, I was a very, very crooked person. I did all the things. I've been there, I've done it, I've seen it all. And honestly, when you become nirapeksha to some degree in the material world, uh, those things become very distasteful, and you're actually seeking something. You're seeking that help. You're seeking something more. You're seeking a higher taste. So, yes. Um, so I'd like somebody else to share, because those are just some of the things. There's a lot going on in this whole pastime, and it's been discussed so nicely. It's one of the most, I don't know, sanguine pastimes for me, that I can really think, oh, what a relief that Krishna's there. He's always there no matter what, for me and for everybody. Anybody like to comment or correct? Yes. Mm.
Hare Krishna. So her misfortune is like a symptom of ecstasy, like when Krishna left Vrindavan and left the gopis, and they were very misfortunate that Krishna left them. So it's like her misfortune, from one aspect, from one perspective, it's misfortune, but it's another one, it's fortune. Like Krishna leaving, putting the gopis in this mood of separation, vipralamba. That was the greatest connection with Krishna. So, in other words, after Krishna left Kubja, he didn't have any more interactions with her. That was it. I mean, there's nothing written about his interactions. So the rest of the time, she was just like lamenting in separation. That's misfortune, but it's the greatest fortune, too. That's from a rasa perspective.
Yeah, we're eternally fortunate due to Srila Prabhupada creating our good fortune. I keep thinking of that. I kept thinking about that he created our good fortune. And actually, he was speaking a little bit when I was reading about Bhaktivatsal, because he still loves us, no matter if he's, like you said, we don't feel fortunate, but we're always fortunate. We may seem misfortunate, but we're always fortunate because, serving in separation, or because we know that Krishna, via Srila Prabhupada, has made our good fortune, has created our good fortune. And I mean, that's actually what keeps us going in bhakti, is our good fortune, just that attitude of gratitude, because, where would we be without that good fortune of Srila Prabhupada spreading it to us, giving it to us, bestowing it to us. Very unfortunate souls before that. And now, as we go up, and Kaivalya also meaning liberation, we're figuring it out, and we're figuring out what our relationships are to Krishna, and becoming more and more and more and more fortunate. Day by day, our fortune is actually increasing. So thank you very much, and wonderful pastimes of Krishna pleasing his devotees eternally. Okay.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvandam Maravindanalayataptam Varhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandar Agom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalem Priya Priti Manti Vasyan Vipan Vikayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamam. Namahom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasnaya Motale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Guru Samviniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gurvani Vaja Nevasesha Shunyavare Vashachare Sajarane Noramani Vaja Shunyavadeva Satyadeva Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Ramanityanando Siadwaita Radha Siva Sare Navata Brenda Krishna Chaitanya Ramanityanando Siadwaita Radha Siva Sare Gaurvata Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Ramanityanando Siadwaita Radha Siva Sare Gaurvata Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Adi Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Looking Hey, Radhe, 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 hey, Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Sri Radhe. Jai Om Vishnupad.
Darpanamarjanam Bhava Mahavagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vetaranam Vijavadu Jivanam Anandam Puri Varnanam Pratipanam Pranamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smaranena Kala Etadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Dordaiva Midrishami Janina Nuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishuna Amani Namana Dena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamae, mama janmani janmani ishvare, bhavatad bhaktir ahoitaki twai, ainanda tanuja kinkaram, patitam mam vishameva bambuda, kribayata babada pangaja, stita duli satra shimpachintaya, nayanam galadashu daraya, vadanam gadgadiridaya gira, pulakarnishitam vabhukada, tavanama grahane bhavishyati, yugayatam namishena, chakshusha pravashayatam, shunayatam jagat sarvam govindam virahena me, aslisha vapadam nastumam, adarshanam marmahata karotuva, yatatava vindatatam pato, mat prananatastusha eva napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than a straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy names? When my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Shastika Ki Jai. And